He does. Jewel is he's a devil in a blue cardigan.
We live.
That's perfect timing to be live. Oh, look at him, man. So young and innocent. Then he listened to Kanye and it was over.
It's all downhill.
It's all downhill. Oh man. Let me pull up one more thing for the restream for the
he's going full
for the comments.
Bon Iver. Your name is Bon Iver, dude. Don't try to tell me that it's Bon Iver. You're from Wisconsin. They definitely call it Bon Iver there.
I definitely thought his name was Bon Iver the first time. I was like, Bon Iver, like Bunny Bear.
I thought that until we recorded the pod.
No, Bon Iver, bro.
That's like, who was that? We were talking about it were NFL players. We try to make it all way more fancy. This dude used to play for the Vikings, and it was Henri Crockett. And I was like, man, your name is Henry, dog. So it ain't Henri. Your name
Try to hit me with the I with the apostrophe over it.
Yeah. No, shout out to Henri. We just joking.
He's not watching. It's all right.
He has no clue who we are.
No shout out.
Not yet.
We made Henri famous, man. We made Henri famous. God damn.
You ain't got no Henri on your roster.
You ain't got no Henri? Oh, come on, man. Come on, restream. We are streaming officially to YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. I want to be able to see the comments. I got Facebook and Twitch up. Y'all want to check YouTube and Twitter for me?
Yeah, I'll check Twitter.
Yeah. Look at baby Jewel lost in the world. I don't know how to check YouTube, man. I told you I'm not.
Come on, Super Black. Come on, Super Black.
It's Black History Month, man. I'm black every month, and I'm super black in February.
Always.
Unless that was too much race stuff.
Never too much race stuff.
Shout out to Usain Bolt. He's always racing and stuff.
Hey, man, he's definitely a championship sprinter.
100.
All right, YouTube, where you at? Where you at, Ted? I feel like every time I got to do anything technologically related, I turn into that version of James Brown.
Where at, Ted?
Where at, Ted? It's one of the greatest interviews of all time.
Hey.
All right, I can't even find us on YouTube.
Are you serious? That's the sad part is like the links are all in.
It's in our link tree.
It's in our link tree.
Yeah.
It's for everybody watching as Alibi can't find our own links. It's in the link tree.
Easy route.
As I dropped all the videos.
We got that man. Ridiculous. It's because we got that. We need more followers. We got that goofy name with all the numbers.
No. I agree with that.
I'm thinking I could just go on YouTube and look up the liner notes.
Just put in the liner notes live, all that, because all the videos are starting to pop up.
It's all good. I know how to navigate IG.
We made IG famous. We made YouTube
My Twitter
famous.
fingers are prolific.
Hey, we just gotta follow.
Shout out to you.
Gotta follow on Twitch. Good looking.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
They think somebody's handsome. It's probably baby Jewel.
Yeah.
All right.
Good looking on a Twitch follow. Yeah.
Yeah, we live. We live on YouTube. All right.
Yeah. All right. As long as I can see that, I'll handle the other ones. As long as I got the other ones.
Yeah.
All right. So let's officially intro this. Wait, I gotta do one more thing, because when I expand, it's gonna be a whole bunch of talking. Let's see. Hold on. Come on. Mute it. You know what?
I ain't got no Yeezy in y'all Serato. Come on, Facebook.
I thought this was another I'm not a cat video. Nah, we're real. We're down one person. That's why we got his baby picture up. We're real.
Yeah.
Shout out to Twitch. Shout out to Twitch. I love Twitch.
I never even looked for that filter after that happened.
Yeah, that dude was. Yo, that dude was so mad.
That cat looked legitimately concerned and sad at the same time. Like, I was like, dog, how is the cat's face mimicking his own response?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find that.
We got different, because now that we're on all these different platforms, people don't have to come to Facebook to watch us.
No, so you can watch us on Facebook, or you can watch us on Twitter. You can watch us on YouTube. All of those. Well, sorry, let me back up. Facebook and Twitter at the Liner Note 79. Twitch. Actually, it's on my personal Twitch. We don't have a Liner Notes Twitch yet, but if it need be. But so we're on my A-Quil Twitch. So A_Quil22 on Twitch. You dig? And then we're on YouTube streaming, but we got that nasty link. So we have fulfilled all our requirements except for one, which is we got to have 100 subscribers. So once we
go subscribe.
Go subscribe. We need some more subscribers on YouTube anyway.
Please,
we'll officially,
please.
One more time, Survivor. One more time.
Please, baby. Please.
All right. We'll officially intro this. Thank y'all for joining us as always on Fridays. We are the Liner Notes crew. We have a podcast that we do every Wednesday. And this week's episode, this is episode 13 of the live and the podcast this week. And that was Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. You dig? So you are joined today by the Liner Notes crew, which features myself, A-Quil, which features Survival, What It Do, features Alibi. Who's Alex Leonard, man? Alibi, man.
I changed that like 3 times.
Change it again. Joined by Alibi.
I came on.
And we are joined by Baby Jewel this week. The 2 eyes.
Yeah, let me rename it for you.
Albie.
Boom. I'm here, man.
Albie.
Albie Sureface.
Hey, man. Albie got cuts night and day.
Albie.
He did,
on our own.
He had no scarf though. Where y'all scarves at?
I think he had a lot of scarves.
Oh man, yeah, Baby Jewel is not a lawyer. He's not. Well, yeah, man.
We should do a giveaway, man, to get our followers up and shares. You know what I mean?
What are we giving away?
Let's give away some A-Quil merch.
Some old merch. Let me go look at the tees and tanks left over from the summer and see what I got.
Whoa, man, get us whoever our 100th follower is.
I might have some stickers and some buttons for you. Yeah, we got to do something for the 100 follower for sure. So, and then if you get to 99, you can't unsubscribe. Try to wait. It go back to be the 100. We know them games.
Real.
Anyway, man, this is officially the Liner Notes podcast. Like I said, we do a music podcast every week. Every Wednesday, we drop an episode, and every Friday, we follow up with the live. So that way, if you like what we said on Wednesday or you hate what we said or whatever, we're here for the smoke. That's what this whole show is about. If you want to join us, comment, all that good stuff. So if you've heard the album before, or if you've heard, just the podcast, one or the other, and you join us today, thank you. We appreciate you. So once again, this is episode 13, the Liner Notes Live, the sister show to the Liner Notes podcast that drops every Wednesday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you can download podcasts, except for SoundCloud and Tidal. Everywhere else, though, we're on your Android, we're on your iPhone, we're everywhere. So, gentlemen, how y'all doing?
Tired, man.
Yeah.
This week was tiring, but
it was.
I'm here for the podcast. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Hit a pod today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm manufacturing some energy. It's good to see y'all. People, I feel like seeing people always energizes you a little bit.
Yeah,
absolutely.
During this quarantine time.
Well, people that I don't work with.
Yeah, that's true.
Me.
Yeah, that's true. People you work with are draining most of the time.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Booba's in the building.
Are you A-Quil?
Yeah, how are
Thank
you,
you.
my bad?
I was
Hey,
waiting.
man. And I said I was gonna get it next
You
week.
did.
Damn it.
That's why I didn't say nothing. That's why I didn't say nothing. You did. Third time's a charm. Next week you got it. No, I'm doing well. Thank you. I really didn't even have too much to add, but I'm doing well. Oh man. You said Boo was in the building? Yeah,
Where's he in the building?
Boo on Facebook?
Facebook, yeah.
Word.
Well, I wish we had a centralized way to see all the comments.
I mean, we do. That's what I'm looking at.
Well, you are, but the rest of us.
True indeed. We'll get it. We'll figure it out. Well, and then again, it's weird because I can't see Facebook. I can only see Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube in that feed. So
yeah.
We'll get it together. But anyway, man,
we'll figure it out.
Shout out today is also it's Chinese New Year's today. So
Year of the Ox.
Year of the Ox.
Cannibal
You dig?
Ox.
Go ahead.
Cannibal
Everybody
Ox.
watch Belly tonight. You know what I mean?
Facts. Watch Belly. Speaking of Belly and speaking of Ox, because it's not the year of the dog, but we did have a DMX forum last night. Oh, segues.
Look at that, man. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Come
Getting
on,
better
man.
every week.
You feel me? So we advertised it for a few weeks. We had a DMX forum. This is our second forum. The first one we did was on Tupac, and what the forums are is just a chance for us, minus the podcast, and it is low key advertising for us. It is, but it's cool. We get forums together on specific artists and specific albums that we've already reviewed. But it's less about our review and more about just engaging with fans that are fans of that album. And so like with the Pac one and just like the DMX one last night, we met a lot of passionate DMX fans. So shout out to y'all. Before I get into the rest of those shout outs for them, anything that you guys individually take away? Survival, I'll start with you. Like anything you enjoyed from last night or anybody in particular?
No, it was a great conversation. It was, I feel like there was more participation, more like general participation than the first one, which was good. Because I feel like, people might have showed up to the first one just being like, I don't really know what this is about. I'm not gonna show my face. Like I may drop something in the chat, but I'm not really gonna, unmute my mic and offer any insight. But there were a lot of people that were just kicking it. It was kind of refreshing for me. Like I didn't have to say much. Like everybody was just, they were just having like a regular conversation about DMX, and it spun off into other topics and some tangential stuff. So it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Okay. Alibi, how about yourself?
What I always like about those forums is just getting to hear from different people around the country, So like, what's dope is having folks who were in New York at that time that album dropped and that, have that background, right? Even hearing from folks who kind of knew about DMX on his come up. To hearing from folks from the South who are, trying to figure out and process exactly what's happening with him as an artist, So it's just cool hearing from different spots of the country. I always find that kind of the most intriguing piece to me. I feel like this one was a little different too because we didn't do like the breakout room, so everybody was kind of together. Which was nice for us in a way because we ain't had to do as much like the heavy lifting. And it's like we're all there. And I think everybody getting to interact a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you, A-Quil?
Look at you being considered again. Thank you.
I'm not. I'm self-centered.
So self-centered, man.
You got your shit off. You're like, all right.
No, man, it was cool, and I actually liked the number of folks we had. I know we had a few people rotating in and out, but it was cool the number we had where we didn't have to go in the breakout rooms. It was breakout rooms was cool, but yeah, I did appreciate us just all being able to still stay in the same place and share stories. And similar to the Pac one, it was cool to see people of different age groups that enjoy DMX. And even the folks who didn't enjoy him like right away, I thought that was cool that they would share those stories as well. So we had people from the DMV area, from down south, like from St. Louis. We was all over the place. So that was cool. So want to do a quick few shout outs. We missed a few people. We did get a lot of people that subscribed and sent their emails in. I know Baby Jewel has that somewhere else, but just some folks off top that I remember that were joining us last night. Just want to shout out Brother Kenny Brown, who we actually met at the Tupac Forum. So shout out him and James. They got a podcast called Bar Drinks and Entrees. So we might have to do some with them, one day. Them some cool brothers, man. So we appreciate them coming back for this one. Want to shout out Brother Willie Hill. He had a lot of great insight from the South point of view.
Did.
He had a lot of stuff, cool stuff going on. So we made sure to follow him and everything. Latoya,
and from a mentor's point of view too. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
that was real cool. Like just his input. Like on what some of the kids were not thinking about specifically about DMX, but just like what he thinks about music in general and how he's feeling and perceiving just like where he's at in the moment. So that was good insight.
No, that was dope. So shout out to him. Shout out to Latoya Brailsfield Ford, if I'm saying that right. Shout out to Jehovah. We didn't know his real name. He just put Jehovah, but if you really Jehovah, that's what's up.
Yeah. Rock with it either way.
Yeah.
St. Louis was in the building.
Yep, St. Louis in the building. Shout out Artia Johnson. She had a couple funny stories. Just had me cracking up. This one I'm probably messing the name up, so I apologize. Ocean.
Is that
right?
I think it was Ocean. Yeah.
Ocean. Okay. And then shout out to Charmaine. Shout out to Dean who joined us. And then shout out my homie Lyndon. I've mentioned him on the podcast before. He joined us, and that was the first time he was able to actually meet everybody. He listened to every episode faithfully, and he'll hit me up within the next day or two to give me his review on us. So
we'll take that too.
Yeah. No, it's always good whether he agrees or disagrees. And he's a huge Kanye fan, so we'll get into that in a second. But he has some good words. He appreciated it. And just shouting everybody out in general, man. We had people on the call in the forum that was like literally like just getting off work, still at work. Or like one girl, she was like in night school, and she literally was like, "Yo, just checked in real quick and put a joint back on mute." So she was like doing her work and then still like listening to us. So I was like, "That's dope."
I like it. That is dope.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to night school.
Shout out to night school. The real night school or the movie with Kevin Hart?
I was just about to say not that one.
And Tiffany Haddish and Romney, my boy Romney Malcolm's in it though.
Hey man, he just had a baby, 52 years old, first kid. That's crazy.
Hey.
Didn't Too Short just do that? Or did he get married?
Fam, I can't fathom having my first kid at 52. That's insanity.
Nah.
He got money though. He'll have a nanny.
Yeah, it'd be a little different.
You got that 40-year-old virgin money.
Facts. Yo, Fat Joe was in that movie too, just randomly. I was like, why is Fat Joe in this joint? He was mad funny though. Fat Joe's a funny dude. Man.
He is. Funny dude.
You know what I saw him in? She's Gotta Have It. The new one.
Yeah, the show on Netflix.
Oh yeah, on, Netflix.
Yeah,
I was watching a couple of episodes of that, and he owns like a burlesque bar or some shit. It's mad random, and he plays like an Italian dude. It's so funny.
Nice.
That's funny.
I mean,
not
a stretch. Yeah, shout out to Fat Joe.
Shout out to Fat Joe, man. For sure. But yeah, man. That was our live. We'll probably do another one. It feels like it's kind of like once a quarter. That feels like. So I don't know. Y'all let us know. Maybe who y'all think y'all do.
Might have to do Yay next, man.
You think? We might. So let's
be some Drew Down to for Baby Jewel.
Drew Down for him would be nuts.
I'm with that. I'm definitely with that, dude. Whoever some other just polarizing and just magnetizing artists.
We got a couple candidates coming around this.
We do.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Ye is up there though.
Yeah. Either way, y'all stay tuned. See when the next time we do the forum, and make sure to join us, man. It's always a good time to listen to folks, man. So in the meantime, y'all got to listen to us. We're going to talk about a little bit of this podcast. And with this brand new podcast, like I said, it was episode 13. It was also the first episode that we had intro music. Hey, we coming up in the world. We coming up.
I definitely, and I apologize to Dialect because I definitely fucked up the reading of the, you know what I mean, of the shout out and the promo. So
yeah.
We'll make sure we get it.
We cleaned it up. He said it was all good when he heard it.
Yeah. It's all good. And so shout out once again, shout out Dialect. Make sure to check him out. We're gonna plug his website, www.dialectmusicmedia.com. So that's DIALEK music MUSIC media MEDIA.com. There you go. Hit him up for all your beat needs, your intros, all your voiceovers. He does all that stuff. So shout him out. He actually did a production video of him constructing our intro music. So matter of fact, if somebody wants to grab those links and put those in the chats, I'm gonna put it, or at least the Facebook one. I'll put it in the other one for everybody else.
Gotcha.
You know, I'll put it on Twitter. I'll grab it.
All right. And then now you can put it on
Facebook. Yep.
Hey, so give me some plugs real quick.
Word up.
Boom. That's Dialect Social. From there, you can get to everything else, I believe, and put the link for the YouTube video. Bon. There we go. But yeah, so shout out Dialect. We appreciate that. Also, with this brand new episode, it almost feels like season 2. A lot of folks that listen to us, they know that we pre-record our podcast like several weeks, if not a couple months in advance, and then the lives are clearly live. So we had a lot of people that were giving us feedback through those first 12 episodes, and it was kind of funny because we were already kind of addressing them in our next episodes, but because they weren't caught up to real time, people didn't hear them. So one thing people mentioned was that, hey, intro music. And it's like, okay, so we got intro music. We got a little better with our sound, volume, fluctuations, and all that stuff. That's always a work in progress. One thing that people also said too is that, I don't want to say that we were too nice, but that we agreed too much. And I think part of that was because we were reviewing albums that we all highly favored, and just of course out the gate, it's you want to get those albums that are going to resonate with a lot of people. So by the time we're episode 13 now, we're a little more comfortable, we're a little more able to find some of those fine places where we might disagree, and before we were like maybe we should spoil episodes, maybe we shouldn't. Well, we kind of spoil them now. It's all good. This album we gave, if you've not heard the podcast, shame on you, as always. But we gave it a 19. It's got a 19.8. Now, just again, if you're joining us for the first time, we have a rating system, and we rate albums on a scale of 0 through 25. Well, we'll never get an album that's 0 because we're not going for those terrible albums. But in general, 0 through 25 is a rating system. It is not deemed a classic if it is below 22. 22 is the cutoff. So, and on a side note, we'll probably get into a separate episode one day where we just actually discuss how the rating categories work in detail. We have some people who love listening to us, and they're like, we're trying to catch on, and I get it for the most part, but it's still a little confusing. So we'll have a whole episode dedicated to that. With that said, we rated this a 19.8, which means it's a good album, or you might even consider it great, but it wasn't deemed classic. And he's not here to defend himself, but in individual ratings, Baby Jewel Edwards rated this a classic. So on the podcast episode, he was kind of on an island. So we want to balance this out as much as we can, but the three of us said it wasn't a classic. Gentlemen, are you okay to stand on your ratings right now, on your individual ratings?
Yeah, I'll dig my heels into, like, all the way into the earth. It's not a great album. And end of story. It's very good at best to me.
All right.
Alibi, what say you?
I think half of the album is really good. I think half the album I don't have to hear. And I think where folks fall on that spectrum varies. There's some people that love this album, you know, and that's part of what we do and why we do it. I think there's clear areas, and there's clear areas where I'm like, I don't have a problem giving him a 5, like on our rating scale. So we rate we rate the albums by category, and we give them 1, 0 through 5 in 5 different categories. And I think I gave it like high scores in 3 categories, but there were 2 where it was just kind of average. And I feel like those are lyrics, you know, and replayability for me. Like, this isn't an album that I'm personally reaching for a lot. I think half the album that is really good, those songs are definitely replayable. But like I said, the other half of the album is not stuff I'm ever really reaching for.
Yeah. So then how do you feel with that, based on, before we really get into our personal stuff real quick, and we covered it very well on this album. This was to date our longest podcast episode. How was the reaction? You do a lot of our social media on Instagram. What was a lot of the feedback through some of the polls and people's like songs? Did it feel like it was? I think you even asked, like, do people think it's a classic? And like, do you know what that rating was?
It's like 2/3. I think like 6. You know, it's like 60 some odd percent. 68% thought it was classic. You know, like 32% didn't. And I think that's fine. You know, that doesn't. I think that makes it kind of where it was graded. You know what I mean? I think most albums that we generally really feel like are classics are probably going to rate a little higher than that.
Right.
You know, you ask if Biggie, if Life After Death was a classic, it's definitely a higher percentage of people believe that album is a classic versus this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we may have. I don't know. I don't want to say what clamping down, but I think we've been a little bit more strict with our parameters, like the way that we're listening to stuff. I don't know about you guys, but because we kind of do things in batches, and this was I guess we can call this the second batch. And you know, it's a different batch. Like, there's a different mixture in there, but I feel like we're gaining a little bit more clarity in terms of, to your point, A-Quil, like how we wanna. It's not like a bias thing. Like, we need to direct the podcast this way. It's just It's we don't need to say that everything is a classic, like to placate.
Well, if everything's a classic, nothing's a classic.
Right, exactly.
And that's the whole point. And I think we're judging kind of the cream of the crop, the peers, you know, and you're not being graded against your peers, but I know for me personally in the beginning, I leaned, if I had a question, I give the artist the benefit of the doubt. And that's an issue when everything that you're rating is going to be artists who probably deserve the benefit of the doubt. And so now I'm a little more, I wouldn't say I'm grading harder, like in a sense, but I don't need to give that grace. You know what I mean? If I'm on the fence between a 3 and a 4 or a 4 and a 5, you know, I sit with it because we don't do half points. So I sit with it and I kind of, you know, if it's replayability, then maybe I play it a few more times and see how I feel after that, you know, but also I don't have to just give you the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? It's kind of where I'm at. So I'm more likely to stick to my 3 if that's what my gut said.
The way that I feel about it is we're kind of we're voting people into we're voting for the Hall of Fame. We're not voting for the All-Star game. You know what I mean? Like, there's two completely.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, and so then you wouldn't say that we were too harsh then on Kanye. I know Joe would feel, sorry, baby Jewel would feel different.
He might. He might. I mean, I'm looking at my scores right now. I don't think so. I mean, I think on balance,
Baby Jew called us haters, man.
He's where he needs to be.
I mean, coming from the biggest hater, I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty stingy with the, with the accolades and how I score, but it's a fine album. I think again, the way that we average it out, and the way that we've averaged out everything, is pretty much right around where they should be.
Do you think?
A few exceptions, but
do you think that? I don't want to say it. Do you think that? You know, I'll come back to it because I can't phrase it. I want to phrase it. Alibi, you're going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah. So like for me, we go through each song and we give it a rating from filler. There's 4 different categories, right? Filler, good, a hit, timeless. And for me, I graded 5 songs in this album as timeless.
Yeah.
But I graded 7 songs good. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like a classic album goes down that way. Mm-hmm. But I also didn't put anything as filler. There's albums we've reviewed where I definitely hit filler, and I didn't put anything on this album filler. I think it's all good, mm-hmm. I do. But in terms of, and I got into this in the pod, just in terms of certain things resonating with me, and I don't view it the same way. And what's interesting is Joel, thought the most highly of this album, but he still only had 5 songs that he rated timeless.
Right.
He had more songs that he rated hits than I did.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, there's nothing I would necessarily change. I think it had a huge impact. I think the concept was cool. I think the production was cool. I wasn't blown away. Like there's songs in this album where the production isn't like, none of it's bad though.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not saying like the production sucked, but it ain't necessarily like a 5 to me,
right.
And then Ye's lyrics, we were all on the same page with that.
Could have gone lower, but and I think I'm
if I was gonna go higher, I don't even know if there's an argument for that. Like a couple of dudes who featured had like super dope verses, but we got a mailed in verse from Jay-Z.
How many pods have we talked about mailed in verses from Jay? Out of 13 episodes,
at least 2.
That's a good point.
At least 2. I don't know.
And so
my 4 might be looking kind of.
No, this might be number 3.
Yeah,
this might be number 3. Yeah,
it could be.
Yeah,
but and I mean, and again, for me, like the replay value isn't necessary. This isn't what I'm reaching for personally. But I get where others disagree, and that's fine. But I think part of what we do here is that for the people who are like, man, that's y'all's own, like that's your opinion and this is supposed to be objective, like part of this is being able to acknowledge where your bias lays,
right,
and not overcorrect. Like I think that this album is a little overrated, but I didn't rate more harsh because I think it's overrated. I sat down and listened to this album a lot, and I could see there's elements where I could see why people feel so strongly about it. But there's equal parts where you could point out, flaws probably isn't the right word because I don't think there's like flaws, but like, to me, lyrics are important. And for us to rate these albums and like for MC to have a 3 and have a classic album is going to be a stretch, man.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like Kanye definitely has his moments, writing wise. Like he has some verses that are definitely interesting. A lot of them are obviously heartfelt, but then he got a lot of moments where it's like, dog, like what? Like that's not, and you either love that or hate that about Ye. And the people who tend to love Ye really love those. I put the pussy in a sarcophagus.
Survival's favorite line.
Yeah.
And I think some of that is covered up he covers up with the way he delivers so outlandishly. But I think the difference, and we'll segue into the next part, because if we go back and listen to like Late Registration or College Dropout, he still had enough bars. I felt like it was a better balance of enough bars and enough charisma, where it's like, oh, that bar was cool. You know, mayonnaise colored bins. I push Miracle Whips. Like that's not that dope, but he said it dope enough where I'm like, I can rock with that. You know.
Yeah.
But then it was like it started like his lyrics started getting worse, but the outlandishness started like going like up. Yeah. And that's the part where it's like, I can't do this, you know? So I do want to hear from people like, what are those other things you're looking for in this album that makes you feel, because I'm completely objective to it, you know, but I'm also like, you know, like I said, me, Alibi, Survival, we're like, this ain't our jam. Joe loved it. He's not here to really defend it. So it was interesting to see other people's feedback on social media, some of the homies that commented on Facebook and stuff. I'm like, I'm just really curious, you know, because it's not our objective here to shit on albums. We're not picking terrible albums anytime we do this. Again, we're picking albums that they're contested classics. You know what I mean? But they're not albums that are just super bad. So it's almost like it's a bad word for people to say, oh, my album is a classic, and you're saying it's trash. Not what we're saying at all, you know, but we're trying to come up with a metric because, like you said, Alibi, we're trying not to overcorrect where people feel like I have a personal attachment to this album. It makes me feel good, therefore it's classic. And it's like, that's not really how this works. You're talking about the impact portion. Sure, it had an incredible impact on you, but there's still other categories, and we try our best to break them up into, we'll say, think of class. You have an overall GPA, because you have math, you have science, you have history. And I feel like I've used this before, but again, for new viewers, that's how we're trying to do it. Because we could be a podcast, and no diss another podcast, where we do just say, hey, man, here's Kanye's album. This is cool.
Everything's like, a classic.
Or everything's great. Yeah. Everything's great.
The drums are great. Yeah. Like the way he sang it was great.
Yeah.
Like the way he used that auto-tune was great. And then it's like, okay, are people listening to that? Are we being truthful? I think that's the biggest thing is, are we being authentic?
Right.
And thought-provoking. Because like and I don't know how many times I say this, but like we put a lot of time into the preparation for these podcasts. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 pages of notes, you know what I mean? And everybody goes ham on their section, and then we collaborate at the end, just to, you know, make sure we have our talking points good and you know, transitions and all that. And like, okay, how do you want to get into this debate? And this specific pod had like a very spirited debate, you know, towards
very
the end.
much.
So it was like, it's definitely a he's a polarizing figure, and to some degree, it was a polarizing album. Joel rated it a 22, so he's the only one that thought it was a classic, and the rest of us rated it the exact same. Like there were different you know, variations of how we got there, but the rest of us rated it 19. So you know, again, on average, I think that it sort of speaks for itself.
But if you're I wanted to say, if Joel is like a big fan of this album and he gave it like a barely classic, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like it when I send out that IG promo, we have like an extensive network of people who really listen and love music. This is the one album that we've done promo for where people legit responded to me and were like, you know what? I ain't actually listened to that album ever.
Really?
Yeah. Like I had multiple people who were like, I don't, you know, because I'm sending out the like, is it a classic or not? And they were like, I can't actually rate this album because I've never, and that you have to like, how? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Classic, but folks haven't listened to it. And then you have to get into the why. And I don't think that, and that's the thing. Like, of course, we try our best to, you know, rate albums in the context that they were released, right? Those are things that we keep in mind also, you know. Try to do a little bit of both, right? In that vacuum, so to speak, that we talked about earlier today, A-Quil, when we were talking, but also like the context of the album. And this is one of those albums that you can't separate from the context necessarily. Or the person. And there's certain artists who are like that. They're just polarizing, huge figures. And and it's going to be very hard to try and, so all we can do is acknowledge like, hey, this is the context, you know, and I'm gonna do my best. But I know for me personally, there was nothing personal about it. You know what I mean? I listened to it again, like before we recorded, a bunch more times, just to like, all right, let me make sure that I'm really giving this a fair take. And that's where I landed.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I was going to ask then. Because again, when people were back to what I said earlier, when, you know, we record podcasts, you know, a few weeks, you know, a month in advance, but it's new when it drops on Wednesday to other folks. So when they're hitting like, oh, you just said this and now you're saying this. And I'm like, we recorded that like 2 months ago, but right. we're catching up. But okay, but still a fair question. We were heavy on saying we're going to do our best to rate albums in a vacuum. And then to Alibi's point, there are certain artists where that necessarily doesn't work because you need the context in order to properly talk about the album. So moving forward, is it more about us saying we're going to rate this in the proper context versus saying the actual vacuum? Like, should we move away from that terminology of vacuum versus context?
I think it depends, but I think what I will say, and I'll give you all an example. If you listen to an album like, say, a Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, right? There's a particular context for that album that's important to know, right? A classic album, you shouldn't necessarily have to have the context. I believe that someone would sit down not knowing the context to that album and would say, yo, this album's phenomenal, period. You know what I mean? But given that context, it might give more weight to that album. Like, damn, and it was in the context of this and this, so that's really what he was singing about, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's certain albums where that might help. There's certain albums where that might hurt. I asked you the question earlier today. I said, you know, my son's 10 years old. If I asked him to listen to this album 10 years from now, I don't, because that's part of the impact, right? I wonder if people really felt a certain way about this project, given everything that was going on with Kanye personally at that time. You know, if you've written an artist off, right? To use Nas for an example, if you got to a point where you're like, I don't know if Nas got it anymore, and then he comes back with a Stillmatic, now we're all like, oh shit, because we thought that it was a wrap for Nas. You know what I mean? And that's the context for this album. But I don't think it was like it. My thing is, and this is where like race comes in, is I don't think that like Black America, we weren't the people who were like necessarily shocked or hurt by Kanye and his antics.
Yeah. So let's back up to that for a second.
Yeah.
Because that's a great point, great segue. So because Kanye is someone you can't necessarily talk about this specific album in a vacuum, all that context matters. And we covered that on the podcast. But for a lot of folks that might not remember, again, he already dropped 808s and Heartbreaks. And I'm going to say something about that a little bit later. But after that, you know, he is in that pop star space. You know, he's transcended hip hop. And then you have the incident with Taylor Swift at the VMAs. I know it's a big meme. We use that. But outside of the meme, like people, and specifically white people, were mad at this dude. Like,
for what? He interrupted Taylor Swift to say what?
To say that Beyonce had the greatest video of all time.
Black people agree.
Yes.
We're all going, are you serious? White America is saying, well, that was rude. He didn't need to interrupt her.
Yeah.
Which we might agree with. That was rude, but he ain't wrong, right?
It went further than that. No, we laughed. Number one, we were like, what the hell's going on? You know, that's just wild. But it's like, and sure, we might think Beyonce had a better video, but the reaction wasn't as visceral. Like, there's mad news clips. You can go back and look yourself. Like they were pissed. They were propping Kanye up. And this is why we're getting to why, you know, talking about this album, you cannot not talk about it without the race portion because of where it went. Like Jimmy Kimmel's on there, like, Kanye got on stage with this poor young artist. They're framing it in a certain way and making her look like this helpless, hapless person. he just like viciously attacked her. Where it's like, no, he jumped on stage and said something and gave her the mic back. And that wasn't cool. But it was framed like he was just this worst, terrible human being. Pete, like Jimmy Kimmel was at his neck. Dr. Phil was like, he would do it to like 10, 15 people. Like Dr. Phil wanted smoke with Kanye. You know what I mean? Like Wolf Blitzer or whatever his name is, CNN. Like this was everywhere. This was a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, and then she had her follow-up where she was being interviewed by people and she was hurt and like just so like, and she, you know, she was still a fan, but it was like, oh man. But dude, people were upset at this dude. So he's now having to go do an apology tour with the media. Like if I would have known and and I would have did this different. He's on a different interview. And then that's where we lead into him taking his sabbatical for 6 months in Hawaii, working on the album that came out to be this one here. And what he did, like part of that was to get back into the good graces of pop culture and pop music.
This is the apology album.
This is the apology album. Because if we're talking about just like his impact and like how artists were influenced, then you can look more at 808s and Heartbreaks and say, that's where Juice WRLD and XXXTentacion, you know, and all them, like where they all derived from. This album ain't that. That's why it's tough to give, in addition to what I was saying about him and his style taken from Cudi. Because Cudi essentially crawled so Kanye could walk, so Drake could fly with this style. Like that's what it really is.
That's some crazy shit.
Yeah. That's real. But this album was essentially a huge apology album to pop America, to pop culture, to get him back into the good graces of pop music. And that's why we were talking about this so tough on the podcast, because you cannot not talk about that part without talking about this album. Otherwise, it makes no sense, because now this is where he comes into the, well, you know, I'm a god. And before he really was into Yeezy, like it was like his response. And now he's starting to build his stuff back up and, you know, toast to the douchebags, toast to the assholes. You know what I mean? It's a backhanded apology, man. So you have to talk about all those things in context to this album. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, because Kanye doesn't separate himself as an artist from the person. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So,
facts.
Yeah, man. No, it's definitely extremely layered, and I think you broke that down very well, you know. But the reality is that, again, even getting into who, I just, as I said on the show, like it's not on the podcast, it's not. This is a particular type of hip hop, and it moved beyond. It moved into a bunch of different genres.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And there's nothing, that's cool. That's fine. You know what I mean? But I think where you land on that spectrum is also important. And I own my biases in that respect. Like, you know, I'm a boom bap type dude, you know, but I also recognize that music has like, there's different spaces for all types of music.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And there's a space for this type of music. It just ain't, like I said, it ain't.
You just gotta wear a scarf, man.
Well, it just wasn't like, all of it wasn't necessarily like classic. You know what I mean? To me, it's a really good album. I would never tell someone like it's a bad album. Like I said, there's no filler. Like it's cool. It's good. It's cool. You know, and that. But again, you have a group of people who really, really, really love this album, and there's a part of me that. Well,
and not in a negative way. I think, and that's the point of what we're doing here with a lot of these. Like, just explain to me why. Like,
I think it has more to do with Ye and some of the content at times. What I appreciate most about this album is that Ye took the time to dig into some of the ugliness, you know, and to own that publicly. And he did that in spots throughout his career. Like he talked about his insecurities. He talked about, you know, and I think that there's value in that and that there's a connection in that. So I get why people feel so strongly, because they're so connected. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yep. Runaway is like, that shit real. Like I think every dude has had that moment where it's just like, fam, like you just got to run away. Like I'm not really going to do right by you. Like, sorry, I suck. Like, you know what I mean? And that's valid. And I think there's a lot of moments in this album where they're valid. My thing is though that there's other artists who I know could have done that better.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? He didn't tap in, like, as a writer, it wasn't tapping into the most like different, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the most complex. The concepts weren't the most complex. The rhymes weren't the most complex.
And all that's interesting because of all the help that he had on this album. Like Survivor, would you say that was it helpful or harmful to have like so many different producers and so many different like writers that he was referring to on this? If this is the end result.
I think generally it would be helpful. I don't really know the answer to that in terms of, so I think from a uh polished sonic vantage point, like we can say, like, he had all the help in the world. He spent $3 million to record this. He had, the top-notch engineers. He spent a lot of time on it.
Mm-hmm.
He had a bunch of different perspectives as far as like dipping into genres, and as far as where he went. The thing that's insulting to me is like how many people were gargling his balls about how how
Damn.
about how great his lyrics were. And you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
It was just like a ball washing thing where Nicki was praising him, and there were a bunch of people. I think Pete Rock said something, and
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a lot of people that were really disingenuous about like just that aspect in particular.
Yeah.
Because it definitely could have been better lyrically. Um, and one thing that I'll say that I don't think people take into account and we mentioned this on the pod a little bit when it comes to this album, is that if you look at this album as a reference point for everything else that came out this year, then yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I guess it's pretty great, because 2010 was not a very good year for hip hop. I mean,
Yeah.
we listed like a bunch of the albums that came out, and there wasn't a whole lot that was eye catching and that was ear candy. And I don't even think anything I could extract from that list that we mentioned on the pod, or that I'm looking at right now, that we could say like, yeah, that's something that we may want to review, that may be like a borderline classic. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So
Yeah.
he kind of stood out, just based on his reputation. One, and then he made some pretty good music, and everything else
Mm.
was fairly mediocre that year. So I mean, by comparison, when you look at it that way, it's like, okay, this was a great album. But you have
Yeah.
to look at it relative to like everything else that came out that year. Like, you know what I mean?
Did Drake drop his first album that year too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry, because So Far Gone was technically a mixtape,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
eight.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, his
Think Me
debut.
Later was 2010. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would say too, to piggyback on that question that you asked, A-Quil, that
Yeah.
this this album accomplished his goal.
And
So
that
when
and
you
that was
ask
what? What was his
to
goal?
get back into the good graces of like pop culture and mainstream America,
Mm.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
that was his goal. Like, he said that. And that's the other thing. Like, I feel like a lot of criticism that we maybe have gotten for this episode, like, fam, we're going off of what Ye is saying.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That's why we
Like,
do
how
the
you gonna get
research.
mad at me? Like this is what he said. You know what I mean? And
Mad
so
at me.
yeah, but he accomplished what he set out to accomplish. And in that sense, like, yeah, he nailed it. You know what I mean?
So does that, on a side note, because again, that didn't impact how we judge this album when we listen to it, but does that make this album feel a little more, I'll say, hollow? Like, if you're a big fan of this album, so there was a couple people who I was hoping was going to join us that are huge fans of this album, who are like, this is one of the best of all time, yada yada, and respect to that. But if your connection to it, is one thing, and then you hear from the actual artist, where it's like, nah, this is essentially an album to get back into good graces of pop culture. Does that taint like the experience of this album? Some does it make it feel more hollow, or you just take away from what you take away from it, and that's the beauty of music.
I guess it depends on who you are.
Yeah.
There are plenty of artists that are trying to make albums to sell records.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was true in 2010. That was true in
And that's not
1995, and that's still true today.
And not to interrupt your point, but that's also not easy.
Right.
Yeah.
But go ahead. My bad. I didn't want to interrupt.
No. I mean, that was the entire point. Is
Gotcha. Okay.
He was probably, maybe the first person or the first megastar that was like very, very clear about what his goals were.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to love me, and I want you to buy this shit so that I can sell T-shirts, blank white T-shirts for $95. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
That's crazy. He should have just put his face on it.
Yeah. Nice.
But
well done. You can own one too if you're the 100th follower.
That's right. I don't necessarily bemoan him for doing that. There you could say the same thing about Drake and his passion for wanting to be a pop star. He wanted to touch the most amount of fandom that he can, and newsflash for everyone, we're only 13% of the population. You know what I'm saying? So if you think that you can get all 100% of the 13% of the population, you're out of your mind. So in order to be a mega star, you got to do some things where you need to touch other audiences, and that's just the way it is.
Well, and as a people too, we have an issue when folks cross over and don't and cross over, like, mentally also. You know what I mean? I don't think people have any issue with it's that connection. You know what I mean? And I think when you lose that connection to what your core audience was, your core audience feels away.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And with Ye, it's different, right? Because I do think that he had a little bit different sound each time out. And he shaped, like, look, man, he probably saved music in some respects, gave them a blueprint to function off of 2010 moving forward. And that's that's not to be taken lightly. I don't know if it in totality came from this necessarily this project though.
Right.
I think Ye had a bunch of different sounds, and they all had their branches of their tree.
Yeah.
But
it was just it was like a snowball.
Yeah.
And I even get like where he's coming from as an artist, wanting to challenge himself. Like I was thinking about just some of the other interviews I had listened to, and I didn't get to this on the pod, but one where he was mentioning how, he was one of in that era, the super producers, and he was kind of helping pioneer that soul sample coming back. You've essentially done this for, your 3 albums plus Jay Beans and like other, Rockefeller artist albums prior to that. That's like what we'll say since what was Beans, like the truth, like 99, 98. So you've been doing this from like 99, 98 until about, when was graduation?
Probably 2006. 2000. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll say about 2000 to about 2006. That's a 6-year span of this sound, and I understand you want to go a different direction, and that's why I think there's even more than an argument. Again, another episode, how 808s and Heartbreaks had way more impact, than this album here. You know what I mean? But just because you switch to this different sound, it's like, what is that still rooted in? What is that based in? Are you still thinking about it in regards to moving the culture forward, or just moving Ye forward? Or, like, I'm curious of that mentality, and because a lot of people will say this is not the album that split hip hop, but it was an album that split hip hop, because so I would say folks that fall on myself, Alibi, Survival side, where it's like, what is this? In that regards, we're over here. But then a lot of other folks are like, oh, this is progressive, Joe loved this album, and other artists or other fans outside of, in my opinion, the hip hop culture were like, oh, this is something I can gravitate towards. So I think all those things are important when taking that into consideration of like what the actual impact is of this album and where it impacted and how, and like what does that look like? You know what I mean? And does that mean you're not loved anymore or any more or less because of that? Like, think of a DMX who clearly, we talked about on this episode where he was like, there's certain beats I don't want those type of beats. Like, this is what I am, this is what I'm about. he rejected that, and yet he's still one of the most universally loved people because he's, you know, this authentic person. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, so.
Well, I mean, but all it's almost like when you play like dominoes, right? Folks be like, "All money ain't good money." You know what I mean?
Right,
And
right.
that's the thing. Like I think we all know Ye's talented enough to do any of these sounds.
Yeah.
You know, in that respect. That just because you can, though, doesn't mean that you have to. You know, and what's to be gained by doing all of those things, going down that road, going down, you know. And I don't knock him. I have no knock for him, like in terms of what choices he made as an artist. I think it's fine, and I think it clearly worked out for him. But again, and I think I made this point on the pod, like we're talking about hip hop, right?
Yeah.
And there are some things that are to my sensibility, there's some things like I want to be able to see and feel the hip hop that I grew up on as if it's still present in current music. You know what I mean? I understand that it transforms and it looks different. You know what I mean? But what kind of energy is there? What is the essence still there? And there's a lot of this album for me, it's not there. And that's what you get when you get this luxury rap music for the 1%. I'm not in the 1%, man. I don't relate to that. You know what I mean? Watch the Throne, like cool. I can listen to it and be like, cool. It's great sonically, like it has a time and a space, but it don't hit me in my spirit. You know what I mean?
So, but so what about folks who don't want to be as tapped in, and maybe they look at this as like escapism?
I think it's cool if that's what you need and that's how you feel, but that's where we're going to agree to disagree. I'm not like the dude who's like, oh man, I just want to do this. I don't fall on that end of the spectrum. I don't have no knock on you for the end of the spectrum that you landed on. You know what I mean? But I don't. This is where I'm at. You know, in my journey and in terms of my own sensibilities. You know, and it's fine if you disagree. Like you very well fall on the other end of the spectrum, and there's obviously a large portion of people that disagree with us. But let's see, this album's 11 years old. Let's see it another 9 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's see if you feel the same way 9 years from now, because my thing is classic music transcends all of that. You know, we go back to other albums reviewed and I said about Death Certificate, the reason why I wanted us to listen to this album was to see could an album that was so early in hip hop still be viewed a certain way now, you know? And that's the thing. It did, right? The substance of what was there sonically, we all agreed like, nah, this is, you know what I mean? There's something that this transcends everything. And I don't know whether or not that will be the case for this. And I suspect it will hold less weight over time. Not that it'll be viewed like poorly,
right?
But I think it is something that people will look back on and be like, like in his catalog, where does this rate? I don't, you know.
And you're saying that because especially when all of the spectacle around it fades, you're saying,
yeah. Because I'd have to tell my son all of that. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know if just the music is going to get it over. And that's part of where we get into our thing, listening to these albums. That's really, we're listening to this for the music. You know what I mean? And 100%. To me, that I can't stress that enough. The music didn't hit me like that. You know what I mean? It didn't mean I thought it was terrible. You know what I mean? Because I didn't rate it that way, you know?
You weren't a 20-something emotional, you know, person listening to this.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm saying that word to Joe because he's in the comments right now. Get out of the comments, man.
But I can relate to that too. There's mad stuff on here that I'm like, yeah, man, it's 20s. I get it. You know what I mean? I do. And this album may be one of those things that connects with a lot of people in that window in their life, and that's fair. But if you heard it outside of that window in your life, how would you feel?
I would say
I'd be like, this dude's tripping.
I'll say quick question to both of you then, because again, it's always that bridging the gaps in generations and yada yada. So, what would be this type of album for a 20-something-year-old Alibi and 20-something-year-old Survival? What would be that album for you?
For me, it was like my early 20s. It was Black Star for sure. Like,
I was
or
Reflection
Eternal. I mean, or Reflection Eternal.
Yeah.
Like I didn't relate to a lot of the music that was coming out when I was in my early 20s. I was born in 1980, so 2005, that was like the South jump off, snap. Like that wasn't me, man. So all I could do was dig back into, the late 90s, early 2000s for the things that like I rock with. And there were some albums that could obviously hold us over. We've talked about this, that was like a great for music in that era, like in our opinion as a group, or as a collective. Like we've kind of discussed that. Now there's some albums that are outliers, but there wasn't nothing during that time that hit me that way.
Okay. Survival, what say you?
Can you repeat the question? I'm trying to make sure.
What was an album for you in your 20s? Like
a transcendent?
What was this album for you in your 20s?
Okay. I get it.
Food and Liquor? I'm not even being funny. Like I can see
what Food and Liquor was very important, but
yeah, that album got me through.
It wasn't. I don't feel like they're completely different artists, and the way that I feel about it is not the way that I believe people feel about this album when they say like, "Yo, this shit's dope. This is a classic, and I'm gonna hold on to this forever."
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like if I was ever in the same mindset of the people that kind of and I think
or even if it's not
lumping
like
everyone together, but
specifically the same mindset, but just something that's maybe you were just going through like an emotional time or something. Like I'll say like for me in that pocket, I'd say Royce the 5'9", Death is Certain, and it was just and that more coincided with what was going on like in my life at that time. And it was like that album emotionally helped, and it was a dark album. There's a line where it's like, "You cutting these lights, I will kill you," and I'm like, I used to feel the hell out of that line because I was in that space. But when I got out of that space, it was like, okay, it served its purpose. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Still a solid album, but I just gravitated to it more because of where I was.
While Survival's thinking too, I think that this album, in a sense, it's hard to divorce. Like, also, when you have an album of this magnitude that's so highly revered, it's really hard to pull that influence to not be impacted by that influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like every Pitchfork 10. Rolling Stones, 5. Like it's really hard when these kind of institutions give like the credit to that album to then divorce. You feel like when I listen to this album, I'm supposed to feel a certain way, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like there's some albums, like when we go back and listen to the music that our parents grew up on, some of those albums were like, oh yeah, I could see that. Like What's Going On. Right? Like when I go back and listen to that, I'm like, yeah, this shit hard as hell. I don't like, there's some albums that I'm like, like it's cool. Like,
yeah.
And
I feel like this is where that would land.
So I guess I have to be in my 20s. So I don't think I was 20 yet, but I'll say The Fix by Scarface.
Yeah, Bounce just said that in Facebook chat. That's what's up.
Oh, see, I wasn't even. I'm not even looking at
that.
That's dope.
That was an amazing album, and I don't think
Jay-Z didn't mail his verse in on that one.
He did not.
Definitely did.
Yes.
I don't think I was in like a dark place, but
and Ye was there.
I was like there was a lot of shit happening, and those like kind of formative years, like before my 20s. I was coming out of my teens. I didn't have the best teen years for a lot of reasons, and I was kind of like, all right, well, I'm about to turn 20 in 2003, and none of this shit is like really looking up. And that's sort of where I was in that moment. Now it did, but I think the way I was consuming music and that specific album coming out at that time, I hope it doesn't. I don't think it clouded my judgment because I still think it's dope to this day, and I don't really get taken back to a dark place when I listen to it.
Yeah,
but I think that album is fucking fire.
I think it is. We might have to review that one day.
Yeah, I think maybe the tipping point for me, like in my early 20s, I feel like that was a tipping point. Was a solid album that I feel like had some things that resonated with me. Pharoah Monch, like Desire, was like another album that I feel like had some something to it. But it's tough, man. I'm looking through like what dropped during that time, and I'm like, when we talk about emotional, like connection type stuff, like Ye was that guy, but this was not. It just wasn't not for me, and I was 30 by the time this dropped also.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
There you have it.
I think I think we've done a great job on the live and on the podcast of talking a lot of Ye. Any other thing you guys want to add? Let us know about Ye, about this album specifically. Any impact and or even any bars, any of that stuff. Let us know. I think because it's funny when I think about this album, I just think about the visuals. Like I feel like his visuals were in another place at this time, like where he was really stepping up. Like the thoughts he has. To me, it's that. So I went to school for film, and I still would love to do a lot of that, one day or like for the rest of my life. But one thing that you always, have to realize when you're, broke college student or like just getting out of college and working on projects, you're always doing things on shoestring budgets, right? And so when you start with an idea, it's like your idea is like this. And then when you start writing, it's like, okay, well, what makes sense when I'm actually writing? So it kind of gets down to this. Yeah, and then by the time you're able to like shoot, it's like this. And then it's like, oh, I only have enough money to X, Y, Z. So it's like this. So where you started and where you end up is two different places. But I feel like Kanye at this time was getting closer to what he was always seeing in his head. And now he's having this vision, this budget that was allowing him to get closer to this. I was
just about to say that. Like he's lucky he's rich. I mean, a lot of us have a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
And I mean,
he a lot of problems.
He worked to get to that place, but yeah.
And a lot of problems, but money helps with both of those things.
Yeah. Like you can make this 1% music if you're trending in that direction. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
And no knock again, but I guess I could, I feel like we've been saying a lot of the same stuff, and probably did that on the pod too. But I guess to break it down succinctly,
but still we don't have Joe here to kind of push back.
But to break it down,
we're all playing defense right now for like an imaginary crowd. But
to break it down succinctly though, there's sometimes people change. And oftentimes people change, right? But like that's fine. Like, and maybe this was the album where like Yeezy and the rest of like things parted ways. And I think he's comfortable with the route that he took, and that's fine. No judgment, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But but there's something to be said about that divergence. It's gonna miss some people. You know what I mean? Absolutely. You took a different direction, and the three of us aren't alone in saying like, yo, like this, he kind of went a different direction, and there's a ton of people that also agree with us on that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there we have it.
We're out of here, man. We're out of here, man. Let's play the blame game real quick.
Okay. All right, I'm in.
So that was our long.
Let's play the blame game.
There it is.
Make it a little lighter now. You know what I mean? We're trying to lighten up, play with us out of here. Yeah, you guys, play with us.
Yeah, let's go.
So, first question for the blame game: who is to blame for Tom Brady's 7th ring? Who is to blame, y'all, for Tom Brady's 7th ring? Who you blaming?
Man,
I mean,
So many.
He
Patrick
deserves
Mahomes.
it, but
He does deserve it. I'm not mad at him.
I'm gonna blame.
I'm blaming.
My first thought went to the Saints.
Hmm.
So the Saints smashed them twice in the regular season. You can't blame Taylor Heinicke or whatever that MAGA dude's name is. You know, he was a backup. They were gonna lose. You knew that, but then everyone was talking about like, you know, you're going into New Orleans again. They got your number, and that just you knew Aaron Rodgers couldn't get it done. You knew that. So I'm not gonna blame the Packers.
No, Pack, no.
Yeah.
I think the earliest point that you could stop them was in the New Orleans game.
Yeah, I didn't watch the season. I haven't watched a lot. I did watch part of the Super Bowl. I would blame the Chiefs' offensive line. Well, first, I would blame the ancestors.
He was running for his life.
I feel like the indigenous spirits were like, nah, bro, until y'all change your name, like, we're not rolling no more.
And but blame that dumbass outside linebackers coach, too.
Yeah, the line, the outside linebacker, coaching in general, right? There were no adjustments made in that game. You know what I mean? So I take back my blame on Patrick Mahomes because that brother was running for his life.
He was running for his life, dude.
That line was bad, and they made no adjustments. So
Bausch is blaming the defense.
That too. So, I mean, but you know, it's hard to slow down Bausch, and I don't know if the Chiefs were known for their defensive expertise.
Everyone was calling them underrated this season, and I was like,
look,
no.
I assumed it was going to be a shootout. So
yeah, I did too.
The fact that y'all only scored 9 points or whatever, like, hey, man, that sounds like an offensive problem to me.
Right.
I am going to blame, and it's probably not fair, I'm going to blame Jameis Winston.
Oh man. Crab leg king?
Yeah, I know you.
Because Jameis Winston did not eat enough W's. Therefore, they had to get him out of there. And he went to the Saints. And that allowed the door for Tom Brady to come and bring Antonio Brown and Gronk.
You're not gonna blame LASIK?
We could also blame LASIK. I'm blaming Bill Belichick, man. Bill Belichick should not have allowed him to leave.
Oh yes, definitely.
There we go.
We're blaming Bill Belichick. I mean, and no disrespect, sorry, brother, but we didn't want them to win anymore in New England either. But Tom Brady should have stayed a Patriot, retired a Patriot. Like, come on, dude. Like, you should not be on Tampa Bay.
That's real.
And now look, man, he went out like, man, dude, he bossed up on you. now we got to reassess. Now we got to reassess Belichick's whole. You dig? You know what I mean?
Yo,
I've already done that.
I got Bible. I got a quick question. We'll get to the next question. Because Bomani brought this up on his podcast. You, as a Patriots fan, I want to know if you agree or disagree with this. He said that Brady's best years was in a 9-year span where they did not win a Super Bowl. So when they won the first 3 out of 4, I mean, you could say that's out of Vinatieri and that's defense. And I'm saying this as an outsider looking in.
Yeah.
That's Vinatieri, the defense. The 9-year span including the undefeated season when they had Randy Moss and then they lost in the championship. So Eli Manning killed them with 2 of those. So what there was the next one was when they beat Seattle,
2014.
Yep. So he was still a monster that year, but it's still like, do they give it to beast mode on the 1 yard line? We might not be talking about this, but with that said, that 9-year span, and then you win Super Bowls after that. So you book in, but those weren't your best years. Would you agree or disagree that he was?
I would definitely agree. And I'll say this until I die. His best year as a pro, and it was probably the most impressive year out of any player that I've seen since like Barry Sanders. He carried that sorry ass 2016 to the AFC Championship, and they were like 9 minutes away from going to the Super Bowl. I don't think you can name a single wide receiver on that team.
Nah, the team sucked. 2006.
He was incredible that year.
Okay.
But yeah, I agree with Bomani. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So next question, or next question in the blame game. Al, can we get the song one more time?
Blame game.
Thank you. JJ Watt got released. Who are we blaming?
Texans.
Yeah, man. Texas organization.
Organization. Okay.
Who you got?
Horrible front office. Horrible.
Yeah. I'm gonna. No, you know what? I'm just being a contrarian. I'm gonna blame JJ Watt's body.
Nice. I thought you were going DeAndre Hopkins.
No, not Hopkins. We're gonna blame his body for breaking down, because if Captain America's body ain't break down, he was gonna be there regardless of how many bad seasons they had. They wouldn't let him go, man. No. But for the record, their front office is trash. And again, Deshaun Watson to the Vikings. Deshaun Watson to the Vikings. Come on.
Please come to the Patriots. Please, please, baby, please.
All right, what you got, Bouse? Bouse said just Houston in general. Oh, did the whole city of Houston?
No.
What a bum be?
The Houston Texans front office, like all those white men up there, terrible.
Right. No, maybe I'll change it and blame James Harden for leaving.
Hey man, skull gang or no gang? Houston's in shambles right now.
Oh man!
They opened though, turkey leg hut for everybody and all the strippers you can afford.
The ones that didn't go to Brooklyn.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh man! All right.
They got fire barbecue in Houston. So.
I need to get down there.
That barbecue was cool. Yeah. They had some other stuff. I feel like Kansas City is the spot that has like the firest barbecue. But
I'm in. I got to get to both places.
I'm with it. Yeah, Rocket. Yeah, Astros cheating.
Rockets, Texans. Come on, Houston. We got a problem, Houston.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, Alibi, music time.
Let's play the game, the blame game.
You might have to set this one up because I don't know if everyone heard of this man.
Yeah. Okay. Who wants to set it up? You want me to set it up? Let me ask a question first, and then we'll get it back down. So, is his name? How you say his name? Changi?
Austin Changi.
Austin Changi.
Yeah, we'll go with that for now.
Yeah.
We don't need to put any respect on his name.
No, we don't.
Respect.
No.
Austin Chingy.
Yeah.
Right there.
No, that's actually disrespectful to Chingy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Bad, Chingy.
Yo, but this guy wanted to cancel Black History Month. As a black man.
Yeah, he is running for governor of the great state of Michigan.
Yeah. He went with the anti-black rollout. What do you know?
Yeah, so I don't even know who to blame there. I'm
white supremacy.
Well, definitely. I'm just thinking, like on a more
internalized racism.
Like who hurt you? Who in high school?
Someone hurt his soul.
Yeah.
Internalized racism.
I blame them.
Got to get over that stuff, man.
Man, shout out to Carter G. Woodson. Thanks for Black History Month.
We appreciate it.
Fuck what Austin's talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Like as if you could cancel Black History.
Right.
You're gonna get canceled well before Black History Month.
Yeah.
About said the Lions. Blame the Detroit Lions. Oh, nice.
Why not?
Man, don't do that.
Oh. Okay. The side question: Who are we blaming for Matt Stafford getting shipped out of town?
Ooh,
Calvin Johnson.
That one you gotta blame. You gotta blame the organization. It's a laughable organization. Like how much
Detroit's on? They've been on a struggle bus for years, man.
For literally 60
decades.
Years.
Oh man! Then they fired. Who's my man? They fired like he was like winning his not
Caldwell.
Yeah,
Wayne Fonts.
Jim
Caldwell.
Wayne Fonts. I thought it's like Scott Mitchell right away.
Yeah.
He went to the playoffs too when they fired him.
Fired Caldwell, man. Come on.
That's crazy. To bring in the Patriot way, man.
Trying to stop the Tony Dungy tree, man.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Tony Dungy tree is greater than the Bill Belichick tree.
That's facts. You already know. Yeah, you know what it is.
What about the Bill Walsh tree?
Bill
Walsh tree's kind of gangster.
It's cool. I mean, Bill Parcells.
Denny Green was on that, man. Catch him on the high road.
Right. Hey, man. Man. Shout out to Denny.
All day.
The God.
All right. Next question. Blame game.
Let's play the blame game.
I've like some graphics should have like came across the screen.
I need an ascot.
Where your scarves at, man? Benzino challenged Royce to 5'9" to a boxing match.
Yeah.
Who are we blaming for that?
What you got in Boston? You gonna hold him down? Come on.
I like his energy, like where he's directing it. I don't like how Royce has been defending M. I'm gonna blame the Boston Celtics because I hate them.
Just stray shots for the Celtics. I'm going to blame toxic masculinity.
That's
a lot of that going on, Mr. Bodybuilder. Yeah. Why are we fighting over this, gentlemen?
I don't know. I'm gonna blame boredom because why like what are you doing? I need y'all to find whoever's instigating this more. I need you to just find more positive outlets and stuff.
The spectacle of two black men fighting over a white dude is insane.
And they're not like taking a step back to look at
look at you. Look at you. There's no winners here.
But he said he to be fair, he'd get in the ring with both of them. Which at 55 I don't think is a good idea. But
I respect his G. I like
but that's where it stops. It's like
it.
The talk is talk, but if you get in the ring with both of them at the same time, like, bro,
he's gonna lose. Definitely believe Royce's hands are way nicer than his. But there's no winners here.
Not at all. None. Not at all. All right, we got one more unless we think it's
one more. The blame game.
Cat lawyer. Who we blaming?
Oh man.
I guess you gotta blame the assistant because my assistant's trying to take off the filter, and he was like,
"Man,
that shit was hilarious."
The assistant. I feel like we're all somehow responsible for allowing that type of mediocrity.
Yeah,
because I felt like that was some important shit going on.
Yeah,
like
he's sitting with a judge and another lawyer. I mean, I'm sure
and Mans couldn't even get the cat off the screen.
Just take the camera off the screen for a second.
Just evidence.
All I'm saying is, if that's my lawyer, I gotta go with someone else. I'm sorry. I gotta go. Sorry, give me my money back. I need a refund. Pro bono isn't even gonna cut it, bro.
Zoom. We can blame Zoom though.
Blame Zoom.
Rock with Zoom. It allows us to see you all every week.
Bow City's blaming dogs and a pandemic, and Royce needs to fight Yellow Wolf.
Oh, I mean, all fair.
I'm with all that.
Yellow Wolf.
All valid points.
Oh, this is your first and your last pass. Oh. Oh man. Who we blaming for Cat Zoom?
Yeah, who you got?
I'm just have to blame Zoom. I can't think of anybody better on that one.
Fair enough.
See? Yeah.
We're gonna blame Zoom, man.
Yeah.
You gotta give an old people option, man. Everybody can't Zoom like that. So
no.
Anyway, I'm hungry, man. Let's get up out of here.
Yeah, me too. I got Bad Wings waiting.
Oh, do you? Oh, yeah, you get the young mambo. Shout out Bad Wings.
I think so. Shout out to Bad Wings. I mean, we can get a sponsor. Come on.
Yeah. Black owned business, Black History Month. Hey.
Yeah, man. Bad Wings.
Yeah. We trying to do some things. We talk about we bringing the trivia back and all that. I'm gonna get these sponsorships together, man, because we need that. We need that.
First, pandemic gotta go. Then we can.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be all virtual until then. I mean, unless you're in Atlanta or Houston, or Florida, they don't believe. They don't believe, man.
They don't.
The pandemic's like Santa Claus, some folks, I guess, but not the little kids. Sorry, little kids. I mean, it is real. So with that, let's get up out of here. Thank y'all for tuning in once again. This is Atlanta Ropes Podcast live. I said both at the same time, but whatever. Again, join us every Wednesday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, where we can download podcasts except for Tidal and SoundCloud. But join us every Wednesday as we drop a new episode, and then you follow us up here on Fridays as we talk a little shit. We're here for the smoke, if you guys got it, or we're here to, converse and just have fun, talk jokes, all that. But that's every Friday. You can also catch us online. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Liner Note 79. We are on YouTube with the nasty YouTube link. So until we get 100 subscribers, we are just
come on, man.
Man.
I know y'all want an A-Quil shirt, man.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Do it. Come on, man. You want my face in your body. Come on.
Come on, man.
But it's easier to just but it's also easier just to hit our link tree. We got a link tree. So hit the link tree, you can see everywhere where you can find us. We also have email, the Liner Notes crew at gmail.com. Oh, and all of our friends and folks we meet online. Thank y'all always for the feedback. Do us a favor, put those feedback, good or bad, I don't care, but put them on the actual podcast. Like rate us, like on Spotify, rate us on Apple Music. So from here on out, guys, let's swear. If our friends hit us up with feedback, force them there. We don't, no more text feedback.
Let everyone see
no more phone call feedbacks. Put it there. I don't care if you put a fake name. I don't care.
Like I didn't hear you because you were in my text chat.
Exactly.
I don't hear you. You're in my DMs.
Nope. I can't hear it unless it's on Spotify or Apple. You dig? But a Liner Notes crew for Alibi, Survival, and Baby Jewel. What? Baby Jewel, what? You know what I mean? He popped in the comments for a quick second. Shout out to him. Don't miss another episode.
Shout out Baby Jewel.
Yeah, man.
I'm A-Quil.
Monday
with the cardigan.
You dig? We got some work to do on Monday. Yeah, y'all have a good weekend.
Right.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day for y'all this weekend. Yeah.
Don't play the blame game this Sunday.
Definitely not. Definitely don't play it Sunday. We out. Peace.
Right,
we out. Peace.
Let's play the blame game.